I won't tell you summon for this character or summon for this character. I will give you some guidelines on how you can decide for yourself who to choose as simple as possible. And for that I got two ways for you on how you can strategize on who to choose. I got the reactive way and the targeted way for you. So first we got the reactive way. This is by selecting a character in times of need. So if you're someone who's able to clear the endgame one time and not the other time, resulting in missing jades when the endgame refreshes, and with endgame I mean Pure Fiction, Apocalyptic Shadow or Memory of Chaos, then I choose the reactive way of deciding which 5-star character you should choose. This is the same method I used when deciding on who I should select for the 300 selector. So how does it work? If you use or know that if you got one of these characters or an extra item of them, it will allow you to get all the rewards for the current endgame mode. Or modes, since there is always one Pure Fiction and one MOC and one Apocalyptic Shadow at the same time. So every 2 weeks an endgame mode refreshes. So how would we do that? Let's start with an example. So for the current endgame modes, I would approach it like this, the reactive method. I use Himeko in all 3 of the current endgame modes. I use it in the current Pure Fiction in the first half, I use her in the MOC of the second half, and I use her in the second half of Apocalyptic Shadow. So I know I got a standard character which I use in one or more of these current endgame modes. But what if you're someone who misses those extra points to get all the rewards because your team is just whack, or your other team is whack, or your relics are whack? Basically, you just can't get all the rewards. And in times of need, which is now, so you can't get all the rewards, and to use Himeko the most in the current endgame modes of the 5-star standard characters, or you don't even have her and you need her to get all the rewards, then I'd recommend you to choose Himeko, because then she will give you that extra little bit of push to get the extra points for the Pure Fiction, or finish MOC in one cycle faster, or do a little bit less actions in the Apocalyptic Shadow, so you can get all the rewards before they all refresh. And of course it is possible that, for example, Himeko is not viable for the next Pure Fiction, MOC or Apocalyptic Shadow, and that she will be just benched. That is a risk that we will be taking. So if you're not comfortable with that risk, then we can make a more educated decision by looking at the upcoming buffs and mechanics of the upcoming endgame modes that Honkai Star Rail shares on Hoya Lab on the same day of their live streams. Unfortunately, they don't show you what the weakness types of the bosses are, but they do show you, like I said, the buffs or mechanics of that endgame mode. So we can use those to see if Himeko is still a bit future-proof for those endgame modes. But even without them, if you cannot get all the rewards for the current endgame mode and to use Himeko the most, you can choose her to give her a bit of extra push. So if we want to go for Himeko to give us that extra bit of push, but you are a bit unsure and uncomfortable whether she will be still viable for the upcoming endgame modes, we can have a look at the buffs that Honkai Star Rail shared on Hoya Lab with us on the day of the live stream. So for the Apocalyptic Shadow, we can see that these will be the buffs in 2.7. The first thing that pops into our mind is the second boss, which is the same boss as the current MOC on the second half. So there is a probability that Himeko might be viable here too, if this boss is also like the MOC boss that needs consistent weakness breaking. But the thing is, the buffs don't give any follow-up attack bonus or scream Himeko. For the second note, maybe the second maybe an indication of consistent weakness breaking, but it's more probable that when you just weakness break the boss, that you can go all in him with your DPS. You do your ult before he recovers. For the first note with Cocolia, the first buff might also be an indication of consistent weakness breaking for Himeko because of the speed increase, since it is not that useful when you weakness break the big boss, in this case Cocolia, since everyone will already be 100% advance forwarded when you weakness break Cocolia. Since it gives a bit of speed increase, it might be an indication that you need to consistently weakness break those ice pillars of Cocolia. But my bet goes more into a Dot team or Sele QQ team instead of a Himeko team, because of the second and third buff. So all in all, is Himeko useful in this upcoming Apocalyptic Shadow by looking only at the buffs? Not really, because they don't scream Himeko. It can still be viable for the second boss maybe, if it is like this Pure Fiction boss, but I wouldn't place my bet on it. And now let's have a look at the upcoming Pure Fiction buffs. Luckily, Himeko is way better in this Pure Fiction because Pure Fiction is a bit revamped. Since now there will be always enemies on the field, we won't have any situations where there will be one enemy left at the end of a wave, which take up all your cycles, which was pretty irritating. So now there will be always enemies on the field, and if you kill those small enemies, the big boss in the middle will get his HP reduced. And with this upcoming Pure Fiction there will even be a new mechanic, which is called grit, which basically is, if you do some things, this grit meter fills up, and if it is fully filled up, then everyone in your team goes Super Saiyan mode, which is called the surging grit state. And how do you fill it up? In this Pure Fiction the main way is by using your skills, and depending on which sub buff you choose, then that mechanic of that sub buff will also contribute in filling up that grit meter. For our Himeko, the best sub buff would be the second sub buff because of the follow-up attack damage increase. And as you can see, when an ally launched a follow-up attack, then you will get additional grit value, so that grit meter will go up. Or Himeko could also use the third sub buff if you go break Himeko. But unfortunately Himeko doesn't have synergy with the main grit buff, which says that you get more of that grit value when you use your skill, and that if you use your skill to attack an enemy, it deals additional damage to all the attacked enemy targets. But that's alright, since that means then that the main DPS should do their damage from using their skill, which could be for example 5-ply, and Himeko will just do her thing with her follow-up attacks. So is Himeko good in this Pure Fiction? By looking at the buffs and mechanics, I'd say yes, that makes sense because Pure Fiction is literally made for Himeko. And now for the upcoming MOC, the buff we will be getting is that there will be 2 trotters summoned on the field at the start of every cycle or wave. And if you kill those trotters, then the elite monsters or higher, so bosses, will get a bit of damage. So that is already an indication that we won't have small enemies probably, since the trotters only deal damage to elite monsters or higher categorized enemies. So is Himeko good with this buff? Potentially, since every wave or cycle 2 trotters will be on the field the whole time. So if you can weakness break them or the boss or other elite enemies on the field with your DPS or even Himeko herself, then Himeko can do her follow attacks a bit consistently. But will she shine? I doubt it, since if you manage to kill the trotters instantly at the start of the cycle and there are just 1 or 2 elite monsters left, then Himeko will fall off. Since if there is just 1 enemy on the field, you cannot consistently weakness break him, since Himeko shines in multiple enemy layouts. So will Himeko be good in this MOC? Depends on the amount of enemies on the field. If there's only 1 boss or 2 elite monsters, she won't provide that much value, even though every wave or cycle we get 2 trotters. If you easily kill those trotters and there's 1 boss left or 2 elite monsters, Himeko won't shine that much. So all in all, for the upcoming endgame modes, the buff specifically, will Himeko still be a viable pick for them? For the Pure Fiction, easy yes. For the Apocalyptic Shadow and Memory of Chaos, I'm not that convinced. For this Apocalyptic Shadow and MOC, we saw that Himeko could be easily used, but for version 2.7, I'm not sure yet. Maybe for 2.8, she will be a viable pick for Apocalyptic Shadow and MOC, just like with the current Apocalyptic Shadow and MOC, but we don't know that yet. But that is why this is called the reactive approach. You choose the character in times of need. So for the current endgame mode, you see, you use a character in multiple teams, or you don't even have that character, and you cannot get all the rewards, and you need that little bit of extra push to get all the rewards, then you choose who you need now. But you should always try to experiment and try out new things. If Himeko is not the character in problem, but your other teams where you, for example, use Bronya, or you even don't have Bronya and need her, then you get her. Or if you have a real sustain issue because the only sustainers you got is like Natasha, Preservation, March 7th and Lynx, then a Bailu might be a good pick for you to help you in sustaining. Or you didn't even have any issues with the current endgame modes, but the next upcoming endgame modes do give you problems, then you need to have a look at which one of these characters you need the most to get all the rewards, just like we did with the current one. Just have a look at the upcoming buffs. You just do whatever you think your account needs. This Himeko example is just a way of showing you how you can approach on choosing on who you need. And now for the targeted way of deciding on who you should select of the 5-star standard characters. And this is how I will personally choose my character, and it's my favorite way, if you can already beat the endgame then. So how does it work? If you don't need anyone of these standard 5-star characters, and you want to increase the probability a little bit of getting your character to a specific eidolon, or you just want to own everyone, then we need to know how many 5-star characters we might potentially get between the day the selector is available until the end of 3.2, when the selector is not available anymore. Because, for example, you don't want to end up in a situation like this. You make someone E2 now, so you select someone from the selector. 4 versions later, you lose some 50-50s, you do a couple of standard banner pulls because of the monthly resets, which result in you getting eidolons here and there. And now you got that character E6, and then you lose your next 50-50 before the selector even ends, and now your character's at E7, which means you could have better used that selector on another character, which you didn't even own or wanted on another eidolon, since you already got that character at E6, or you got a character at E5, but you wanted another character at E1. So let's see, can we get a 5-star from the standard banner in between the day the selector is available until the end of version 3.2, when the selector is not available anymore? So first of all, every Wednesday a new version drops, which is every 42 days. The selector is available at the start of version 2.7 on the 4th of December, and the end of version 3.2, if things go normally according to plan, every 42 days a new version is. So we will have 4 versions between 2.7 and 3.2. So from 2.7 to 3.0, from 3.0 to 3.1, from 3.1 to 3.2. So 4 times 42 days will be 168 days. So from the 4th of December, 168 days later, will come out, if things go normally, on the 21st of May 2025, the selector won't be available anymore. But you should not remember the day, since they can decide that a version lasts long or a couple of versions last shorter. All you need to remember is that it is at the end of version 3.2. And I really hope that they don't force you to select someone from the selector immediately when the 2.7 starts, but that it's in your mail and that you can just choose who you want whenever you want until the last day. Because otherwise everything I will say now would have been for nothing. So we know the 21st of May is when the selector won't be available anymore. So I'd recommend to set your alarm 3 weeks before that. So set your reminder on the 1st of May if you don't plan on selecting now, so that you don't forget to select that character. And why 3 weeks before? Like I said, they can decide that the version lasts shorter. Then the 21st of May won't be accurate anymore, but it would be the 14th of May or the 10th of May. Just add a reminder with a big gap. Alright, so with that out of the way, can we get a 5-star from the standard banner if we just play the game normally until the last week of version 3.2? For that we need to know how many standard banner pulls we can get until then. So from where can we get those standard banner pulls if we just play the game normally? First of all, from the monthly shop. There are 5 months in between, from the 4th of December until the 21st of May, or just until May we can say. And I won't be counting the December monthly shop because you should have already bought those and used those. And you can buy 5 pulls from the monthly shop, so 5 times 5 is 25 standard banner pulls. So that's a thing we already get. But we will also get some pulls when we just ascend some characters. Since whenever you ascend a character, and if you just ascend them normally until level 70 or something, you get 3 standard banner pulls. So there are 4 versions in total until the end of version 3.2. So new characters will come, new reruns will come. You will ascend some characters you already own, or ascend the new characters you will pull in the future. So we can just roughly estimate that until the end of version 3.2, you might get like 15 standard banner pulls. So building up 5 characters in 168 days in 4 versions. And of course, if you buy that nameless glory pass, then you can ascend and build more characters. But this is just an average. If you just play the game normally and not just focus on ascending everyone to get all the pulls. So when you pull a new character, you build them, you level their traces, and you get those 3 extra pulls as a gift. So you can just roughly estimate you get 15 pulls until then. Maybe more, maybe less. Just an estimate. So from that nameless honor, you don't have to buy the paid version. So from the free version, you already get 5 standard banner pulls. there are 4 versions in between, so 2.7, 3.0, 3.1 and 3.2, which means 5 pulls times 4 versions is we will get 20 pulls. But then there is also the simulated universe where we'll be getting 1 standard banner pull from every week. So from the first week the Selector is available until the last week the Selector is available. That will be 25 weeks in total. So that means 25 times 1 standard banner pull is 25 standard banner pulls from the simulated universe alone. And remember, Honkai Star Rail can change the length of versions, so it's just a rough estimate. So in total we will be having around 85 pulls. But I don't care about the exact number. All I need to know is that there is a probability that we will be getting a 5-star character. And I hope a character entered the light cone. So we can now basically say that it is guaranteed that we will be getting a 5-star if your pity is 0 from the day the Selector is available until the last week the Selector is available. Sure, the pity is 90, but you already get a 5-star at around 80 pulls. The highest PT I ever got was 81 in the 1.5 years I've been playing. So we can comfortably say we'll be getting a 5-star. And like I said, hope that it will be a character. Well, that's what I want at least. So what are all the sources where we might get potential 5-star characters with? That will be, of course, losing the 50/50s until the second half of version 3.2. Since the second half will be the last banner before the Selector is unavailable. We will get a 5-star, hopefully a character from the standard banner if we just played the game normally. This will be getting around 85 pulls. 5 stars already gotten in most cases at 80 pulls. And of course another source is from the 300 banner Selector if you didn't already get to that point yet. But how many 50/50s will I lose until the end of version 3.2? That's something we can say. Let's hope we win all of them. And we don't even know whether we will pull for the 3.1 or 3.2 banners. But it doesn't really matter because we know for a fact that if we just play normally, that we will get around 85 pulls. And the last standard banner pull we will get is the standard banner pull from the simulated universe of the last week of version 3.2. So if your pity is 0, then around that time period you will get a 5-star. And I hope for you a 5-star character. So this is how I will use all this information. I'm going to wait until the last week of version 3.2. I will use the last standard banner pull I get from the simulated universe, since it is the last guaranteed standard banner pull from version 3.2. And maybe my pity is already like 10, that's possible of course. But I want to increase the probability of not selecting a character from the Selector, which I might get from this one standard banner pull. Sure, the probability is really low, but like I said, if you're an endgame player and you don't need anyone from the Selector and you can just wait, which I will do, you can just wait until the last moment because the game is already easy for you. So when I do that last standard banner pull in the last week of version 3.2, I will use Selector on anyone but Bailey or Gachabid. Maybe I can by that time E4 my wealth depending on which 50/50 I lost or which 5-star character I got from the standard banner, hoping it's a character. It is just that whatever happens, until then I will see and choose someone who I think I will have the most fun with. Since I don't need anyone, I want to maximize my enjoyment in the game by just patiently waiting and choose someone who I might have the most fun with. And not accidentally E2 someone now already and the gacha gods hate me. I lose every 50/50. I get lucky with Sand Banner and I already got that character at E6. And the next time I lose 50/50, I got the character at E7. So I could have better used that Selector on another character. So that's why I will just wait patiently until the last week. But nothing of what I said matters if it doesn't contribute to your happiness. If choosing the best future-proof meta standard character makes you happy, then that's a win. Or you just pick someone who you don't have for collection purposes because you know that you will enjoy that, no need to stress about it. You can choose them immediately if you need them, like with the reactive way, or just wait until the last version of 3.2 if you don't need anyone. Or you still choose immediately even though you don't need anyone, but you just want to have fun with Eidolons or a character you don't even have. All is fine, you're the boss, you have the final decision. So I thank you for your time and see you the next time. Bye.